you're out there listening or you're on another station where we can't see you, dial in to 563-999-3581 and press 1. And welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here. Once again, we get to play. And I'd like to start out today. I actually was working with someone, and a poem came up that we've shared previously on the show, but it seemed appropriate to bring it forward once again. It's pretty impactful. This is something that, way back, almost 50 years ago, when I was in the restaurant business on Mother's Day, I would print this on the menu for Mother's Day as a souvenir. And the poem's called Desiderata. It was written in 1927 by a man named Max Ehrmann. It was actually published by somebody that said it was found in a church somewhere back in, I think it was the 1500s, but it was actually written by Max Ehrmann in 1927. It's called Desiderata. Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you will become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. Does not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, and whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt, the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. Powerful piece of insight for someone who wrote it, almost a century ago now. Pretty sweet. And of course, one of the ways of achieving what this beautiful piece of writing offers is to remove from your mind those things that would take you in directions other than experiencing yourself and your life as the presence of love. Most of what Ehrman counsels there counsels against are nothing but fabrications of the mind. And those who become lost in those fabrications become lost in things that they think are real outside of them, but are only realities within their own minds. And as we wake up to the truth of who we are, the things that he counsels against, as we wake up to who we are, will tend to disappear from our lives, because as creators, we set them up, we create them. Yes, now often they show up seemingly from the outside world, but they only show up from the outside world because inside of us we invite, we ask, we create. And when we recognize the power of our words, the power of the command we give the universe through words, pretty powerful place to be. And of course, if you work against the things that you don't want happening in your life with your words, tendency will be to spend a lot of time speaking words about those things that you don't want. And by the simple speaking of them, because we live in a vibratory world, those energetic patterns, those vibrations that we engage in, even though we say, I don't ever want this to happen, by simply engaging in the words, we bring about the result. And so the removal of that which never belonged becomes key in the process, creating a life filled with the active presence of love, with human life. We started on a path yesterday looking at some of the keys to healing, and I'd like to kind of continue with that conversation today. And remind everyone that power of healing lies within you. If you want a true solution to any challenge in your life, especially if your mind tells you the problem's out there, be prepared to invest yourself in an unlearning, relearning experience. There are people out there who will counsel, be a positive thinker. But if you're engaged in premature positive thinking on top of a negative foundation, the negative foundation will always rule. That's why it's so important to go into those hidden parts of the mind and unlearn, undo those things that never belonged. And we invite you to enter into the process of inner dialogue, inner search. And if you want to achieve a state of a serene life, then you're going to have to become a student, an observer of your own mind, and learn properly how to interpret your words, how to recognize the energetic distress and alarm signals given by your own body, mind, nervous system. This is the very first step in true healing. To interpret correctly. Now, because we, as I said yesterday, being born into this world of conflict, being structured in the beliefs of the world, virtually everyone, unless their minds are carefully guarded by their caretakers, virtually everyone becomes a card-carrying member of the one world religion of blame. And leaving that religion is a difficult challenge. Leaving the language behind that blames somebody else for what our mind and physiology are producing is a big challenge, because once we instruct the mind to show us that the outer world is the problem, our mind will show us what appears to be an outer world, and it will convince us that that's the problem. But the world we're looking at is one projected from our own brains. Each dynamic that happens within it is reflective of what's going on within the mind. So we live in a culture And this culture has a specialty. And that is through any means possible to turn off, deny, ignore, or project, rather than properly address distress signals given by our own structure. And as a result of that, people literally die. Now, of course, this creates fortunes for those who keep people focused on the external world and anesthetizing themselves against their pain. You know, drugs, alcohol, adulterated, what they call foods, but they're not actually even foods, fear, hostility, politics, entertainment, even busyness can all work to anesthetize us and block our ability to properly interpret what our nervous system is telling us. You might remember the journalist Bill Moyers, PBS fame, award-winning journalist, honorary degrees. He summed up the challenge when he said, "I hear an almost inaudible but pervasive discontent with the price we pay for our current materialism. And," he says, "I hear a fluttering of hope that there might be more to life than bread and circuses." You know, the Romans recognized that if they kept people's bellies full and they gave them lots of entertainment, they could get away with just about anything. And so we're, with this work, hoping to offer each person support in expanding their horizons in the arena of self-care, self-healing, and literally how to make your unconscious mind, your biology, and your nervous system life-friendly. They're not skills that the average mind has ever even heard of, let alone been taught. If you have perspectives and insights, tools, or methods that will improve or add to what we're offering, we're here to hear about it. Anything that you've experienced that has taken you into a deeper space of self-awareness and self-healing, we want to know about it. Otherwise, if people don't acquire tools and don't change, you know, when people want change in their lives, the first thing they have to do is change. And one of the biggest things that people resist is change. There was a political cartoon that came across my Facebook page a while back, and here's this politician standing up in front of an orator in front of a group, and his oration is about, it's time for change. How many want change? And, everybody in the audience is throwing their hats up in the air, and they're all excited, and yay! And then the next frame, the same politician is saying, okay, how many want to change? And everybody's looking down at their feet. No, it's the other people that need to change, not me. If you want serenity in your physiology, you will find that the only thing that has ever disturbed your physiology is in your physiology. Well, Michael, what about that atrocity that happened out there that I saw yesterday? Yes, I saw that same atrocity. And I noticed that one person in the crowd was enraged. They said ringed by it, but no, they were just enraged. Somebody else in the crowd went, oh, I'm so terribly frightened by that, as though something outside of them could frighten them. If the habits of mind based in hostility or fear are never overcome, then serenity will elude you if you don't have it already. I like how Henry Ford said it. He said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And that's kind of, that's the understatement of the century. In our modern world where we think we know it all, the mind is probably the least understood, the most poorly managed device in the world. one thing we do know about the mind is that, like the operation of a computer, if the inputs, for the computer, if the internet connection, the modem, the keyboard are faulty, every function of the computer is going to be unstable. And so it is with the human mind and body. It's set, its inputs, when optimized, empower one in living in a truly fulfilled space. In traumatized family, community systems, the controlling dynamics of the nervous systems and the minds involved often go totally unrecognized and, of course, misinterpreted when those signals come from the nervous system. A signal of hostility doesn't mean somebody outside of you is the problem in your life. A signal of fear doesn't mean something outside of you is going to deliver terror and trauma. It means that there's something going on inside of you that you need to learn to read correctly rather than project into your brain's image of others and, playing out as a member of that one world religion of blame. Your nervous system will not warn you that somebody else is the problem in your life. Your nervous system will only warn you of what's held in your nervous system. Though your mind can turn that warning around and make it about somebody else. In the 50-plus years that I've spent developing what we're engaging in here, what we've been engaging in, we've had an ongoing, continuing conversation for the last 12 years now. I come to realize that the functioning and healing of the human mind, the human body, the human nervous system is really a completely understandable process if one is willing to honor truth, has patience, and the courage to challenge false beliefs. And for that to happen, one has to open to new possibilities. Oh, how many want to change? If your impulse isn't to instantly put your hand up and give a yay to that, then you might want to look at how the mind can be stuck in a state of inertia. And if you remember from physics class in high school, the word inertia describes a body that's going in a particular direction at a particular rate of speed and is going to continue to move in that direction at that rate of speed until it's acted upon by an outside force. Are you willing to challenge your inertia-bound mind and false beliefs in order to make space for new possibilities? And of course, we've been taught that the body and the mind are two different things. That's one of the first pieces of misinformation that we need to correct. The words mind and body represent exactly the same singular experience. The only difference between them is the perspective. All physical disease is a result of mental illness. If you go to the opening words in the book of John, it does not say in the beginning was the Word and the Word became flesh. It says in the beginning was the mind energy and the mind energy became flesh. Your mind energy becomes your flesh. My mind energy becomes my flesh. Your mind energy can't become my flesh. Only mine can. But if my mind is telling me that it's you that's doing this to me, then I'm in a lie that I need to confront. So often people engage in treatment that they're told creates side effects, but in fact, there is no treatment in the world that creates side effects. That's a little lie that the world has made up in order to sell toxic drugs. There are no side effects to drugs. Drugs cause diseases. Every one of them is a disease disguised as a cure. Not saying that they can't ameliorate a set of symptoms, but you'll never find a drug that does any healing. And if you look at the label on every one, there's an insert in the package, and it'll tell you all the diseases that it causes. Treatment that creates toxic side effects is a disease-causing agent that's disguised as a cure. If you go to PubMed and you look up the word pharmacy, it'll tell you that it's a Greek term, which means to charm or to enchant. So pharmaco, magic, charm, cure, potion, medicine. And comes to mind George Bernard Shaw, who says, beware of false knowledge. It is more dangerous than ignorance. In the computer world, faulty inputs are labeled as corrupt data. And if they're not corrected, everybody knows the computer's going to fail to complete any task you give it successfully. Highly functioning, reliable mind, body, nervous system always creates success within the confines of existing circumstances. Always. Always. It's reliable. Now, somehow, people think they can produce ascendancy in life without addressing the incoherence within themselves. No, I don't need to look at that horrible trauma that happened to me when I was 4. I don't need to know anything about the terrors and traumas my parents went through. I can rise above it. I'm a positive thinker. Well, what you'll notice is what happens with the positive thinker is they can go on for so long producing the positive result until the positive result becomes more burdensome than the toxic traumas within them. And then the results collapse. They crash. It's like having a building that the foundation's designed to handle 2 stories. And, well, you know, you might be able to get a 3rd story on there, and it might stand. You might even be able to put a 4th story on it. But the first big wind that comes along, that building's going over. Premature positive thinking is a disorder. We need to go in and clean up the root energetic patterns within ourselves. And if there are energetic patterns that are incoherent, what do incoherent energetic patterns look like in a human form? They look like hostility and fear. People who have not addressed what's gone on or what's going on or what they're carrying around inside of them, somehow, you know, if they haven't healed their fearful or hostile structures, fantasize that they can produce high-level outcomes. Now think about it, you know, how does one expect high-level outcomes in the presence of internal, defective, corrupt data? It's never happened and it never will. And of course, once again, the person who lives in that fantasy will always worship at the altar of the one world religion of blame, guilt, and victimhood. It will always be somebody else's fault. In the human realm will always produce pain, suffering, and failure. And unfortunately, rage, conflict, relationship failure today are so common that it's just thought of as natural. Well, you know, it's just kind of part of the process. And while self-deprecation and failure become the norm for so many, it seems like it's unavoidable. Failure is anything but natural. It becomes the norm to those who come from family systems and cultural systems that thrive on failure. And usually the one who profits from that failure is the king. Today, the name for king is corporation, or oftentimes politician. Like a computer, high levels of success in the human realm are the result of one thing: reliable data processed through a solid functional device. Now, you'll notice you never hear a computer degrade itself. That would be a result of corrupt data. Oh, I can't do that. Notice how often you hear humans do exactly that. But when troubles come, those same humans proclaim themselves innocent victims, and it's all somebody else's fault. Such conflicts are always a reflection of functioning out of hidden corrupt data. Results are never just the luck of the draw. burn into your brain. Anything based in fear or hostility corrupts the functioning of the human mind, body, and nervous system. It's just the way it works. And if you ever question that, just notice that every time in your life that you've ever done something that today you regret, the feeling, the emotion that was moving in you, that motivated you to do whatever it did whatever it was that you did, was what? Some form of hostility or fear. That's what was moving at the root of that behavior that you now regret. Regret comes from corrupt data of fear and hostility being used to produce the perceptual constructs of the mind. And when fear or hostility goes unaddressed in a relationship, family, a community, a nation, or between nations, it's 100% predictable that people are going to suffer and lives will be destroyed. You know, one of the wealthiest and most respected billionaires in today's world is Warren Buffett. He says the most important investment you can make is in yourself. And the investment to make in yourself is cleaning up your own structure. The generational content within your own body-mind unit. Now, this is a principle that's been recognized for thousands of years, and many people want to deny it because of the work they need to do around that principle. One's initial relationships must be secure to have a highly functioning, reliable mind-body to function through. And, you know, there are many false definitions of success in our world. And we need to redefine these things, you know. For instance, we've all heard of the billionaire whose marriages fail, their children commit suicide. And, you know, think about it. It takes an extreme amount of self-deception to go, now there's a successful man, or there's a successful woman. Full of money makes one successful? No. So ultimately, if there's been damage inflicted in one's early life, the traumas held from that, and or in their generational life, the traumas held must be healed. And when they are, they become a starting point. Lays a foundation for joy, aliveness, stability, and a fulfilled life. Now, those who don't know any better would rather hide those healing opportunities, wondering why their lives are scarred repeatedly by family conflict, by unhappiness, physical strain, shutdown illness, pain, alcohol, drug abuse, overeating, or financial failure. Gee, why are these things happening? Because the source of them has a defect in it. And to recognize that if that's your state of existence at this point, it's not that the defect is you. There are no defective people. Each one of us is made of exactly the same stuff as every other one of us. However, if there's defective content within the generational patterning, within the community patterning, that's when the healing needs to be done. You know, unresolved ancient inputs, including generational traumas, skeletons hidden in the family closet, inevitably, sooner or later, exert their influence on the body-mind, and usually those things happen at the most important and inopportune times. Carl Jung had a really powerful way of speaking of this. He said this: until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives to freeing the body-mind unit, the nervous system, from past inflicted physical, mental, emotional traumas is to reset and open the energy flow in this body-mind so it's receptive to that state of joy and well-being and aliveness. And interestingly enough, there's a protocol for achieving that. It starts with your mindset. And physiological responses when you're thinking of or interacting with parents. They're a key. You might remember there was a commandment that said, honor your father and your mother. It wasn't so that you'd be a nice guy. You'll notice that in Yeshua's teaching, they asked him what's most important in the law, and he says, not love your neighbor, love God as yourself, but rather it says have Rahma, which is a condition. And there isn't even a word for it in our culture. It's a condition in the frontal lobes of the brain, the opening through which love, human life, enters the human form. So that's got to be active in you for anybody. Because once you think of someone, they're your neighbor. So for the Creator, for self, and for anybody that you think about, the requirement there is to have that condition of love in your mind, that gateway open so that that condition of love is there. And the reason for this commandment, and it is a commandment, I mean, people can throw it out if they like, but you'll notice it doesn't say have Rahma for them like it does for everybody else. It's just one set of people, parents, or those who acted as parents, that this requirement is set for. And the word isn't have Rahma, or as the Greeks translated love, the word is honor. And that commandment is for the person who has a multi-generational database where there's any unresolved trauma, especially relating to parents. Because if one, and the word honor there would be bring love into action toward. And the more trauma there was in a parental relationship, the more important it is to honor that parent. Because when you do, here's what happens. You're bringing love, or pardon me, you're taking action toward them based in love. And to do that, love has to be moving through your physiology. So you're the beneficiary of that commandment, not parents. Yeah, there'll be a side beneficiary, but the prime beneficiary of living that, honoring parents, bringing love into action toward parents. Remember that line in the worksheet that says, you get the original, they get the carbon copy. The constructs in your mind that you hold in regard to your first authority are urgent to building a solid life. And if you don't clean it up, a solid life is going to be virtually impossible to achieve. Because if one is in tension in the presence of an abusive parent, restriction of blood and energy flow will impact health in a myriad of ways. And remember that the body-mind unit can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined experience. If a past unresolved traumatic experience is triggered into activity, our biology relives it. Nervousness, sweaty palms, shortening or quickening of breath, gut pain, hot flashes, headaches, back pain, are all reflections of the energetic patterns moving within our system. And they are not caused by someone else. They are caused by the fact that they're there. If one's in that trauma state physiologically, and the cognitive part of the brain re-experiences the trauma behind what's happening physiologically, we call that a flashback. But most people live their lives so as to block the flashbacks, to block the awareness of what it is that's behind those states. You know, if you've ever had fear, quote unquote, hit you in the gut, what happened? If you've ever gone into a fit of rage, notice what you have to do to your body-mind to express those corrupting energies. Medically, the physical condition we're talking about there is called sympathetic dominance. It's a state of fear, fright, flight, freeze, and fawning. And all of that ultimately needs to be cleaned up if we're going to truly live as human beings. So there's a foundation for where we want to go. And I'll just hope that it opens a space for some conversation. Went a little longer than I expected to with those ideas. But Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody out there in the phone queue with a hand up, or anybody in the chat room with a thought for us?
No, it's all quiet out here, and we are down to 19 minutes, so somebody press 1. Put your hand up. And I
Time
do
flies
see
when you're having
Linda's
fun.
hand up, but I know. I think it's left over from talking with Dr. Tim, but I'll turn on her microphone and see. Miss Linda, did you raise your hand a second time, or is this left over?
Well, it's left over, but I was thinking of raising my hand.
Well, welcome. How are you?
Good, good. I'm rocking.
Sweet.
Yep, got a bunch of worksheets in my mind set up. My first priority is to get an amends letter out to a friend of mine of 40-some years, 50 years maybe. And yeah, for a situation that I never revealed to her, and I just want to make sure that before either one of us die, of course there's no surety here, but that she would be willing to read the letter, because she's recently dropped me, and I don't know. I keep trying to contact her, and I know she dropped one phone, but I have a feeling that hopefully she will read this letter. If not, it's done on my end.
It's been offered.
So, pardon?
I say it's been offered. That's the important thing.
Right, right. And I do.
That's how you receive it.
We were just speaking about it. Yeah, right, exactly. And to receive the self-forgiveness so I can be done with my dismantling of all this, my canceling of my goals. I didn't tell her the truth earlier when I had an opportunity to, because I was afraid of losing her friendship. And then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but through several different worksheets, I realized, well, who's more important? Following the laws of life and the vision of the Creator, or putting this friend in that place. And so I said, nah, it's got to be done.
Question.
I gotta, set my rudder home. I don't have to do anything, by the way. I think I'm going to choose to reset my rudder and get myself back on compass here. Yes?
Cool. Question. So have you done any worksheets on the fear that had you interacting with her like that?
Yes, I have.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel really
clear.
I did some mind shifter. I'm doing a mind shifter that Dr. Tim gave me, and a whole bunch of things are beginning to line up now for me. And
Sweet.
then Magda has a new, very simple, very direct mind shifter that Dr. Tim gave her, and I went, oh, this is the next mind shifter for me, and I'm just about ready to jump over.
Nice.
Yeah. Stepping stones, right?
Absolutely, and we'll hold the space for whatever the fear is that inhibited you from being able to be honest with her. You can literally remove from your physiology, so the truth is safe, just safe to be with.
That's one of the primary lessons I'm learning through all these different means I'm using. Finding my way, finding the mind shifter really helps a lot, and I think it's simple, and keeping it simple, and then it directs me to what I need to work with on the worksheet.
Awesome.
And
It's a sweet tool, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the mind shifter a lot, and my willingness, I've come to a very gentle acceptance of my willingness or non-willingness, almost a very simple trusting that I've known what I've done in the past, and whenever I've been 100% willing in the past, the change, the turning is very swift, and very calm, because I know what I have to do. I don't have to do anything. As the Way of Mastery says, I know what I am being responsible for, myself and other, and choosing to do in this moment. I'm still working with language in here.
Sweet.
But at least I know what it's talking about when I say, oh, wait, I thought I was giving that word, canceling that word from my vocabulary. So let's go back and cancel it and replace it with something more helpful.
Yeah, nice.
So
Awesome.
Thank you for reading the Desiderata. Is that what it is? I forget.
Yes.
I never remember. Okay, the Desiderata. It's one of my favorites, and every now and then I run across it again. And I also have a little quote for you for what you were talking about at the beginning of the show about being responsible and about it, the one world religion of blame. There's a wonderful African proverb that I ran across in a series of checks I bought. And I chose that particular African theme. And the quote is this: when there is no enemy within, the enemy without can do no harm.
That's pretty close to the truth.
Yep. I'm sure.
Because of course, if there's no enemy within, there cannot be an enemy without.
That's true, but it's certainly a lot closer than what we've got. Yes.
Yeah. I just sent you a link to the Desiderata poem that you can print off if you want to just frame it and put it on your wall. Or actually, the link I sent you also has pre-printed, nicely printed posters you can get, relatively inexpensively.
Right. I'll just take it down and have it printed out and shower it around.
Cool.
It's a sweet one. Okay, that's all I have to say, and I just wanted to thank you for today's very tightly knit presentation. I felt, at least for me, it really connected things together in a nice, tight weave. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, young lady, delighted to be here to support you. Appreciate you having a listening ear, so we have a place to speak it.
There you go. Oh, I was speaking of a listening ear. I was thinking about this in relation to the chakra system. I've been thinking a lot, why am I dealing with this cataract? And I came to just a very tentative observation here, is that for me, the eyes represent, they are connected straight to the forebrain and the perception of the world, but the ears come from the heart and the heart perception of the world. So I like that. I like to think of Urukha as whispering in my ear or the sound of my breath going through my body, guiding me, always guiding me if I'm paying attention and willing. And then the eyes are just about, what am I going to perceive out there? What am I going to intend out there? Rahma and Kuba. So I thought I'd share that with you.
Sweet.
That's
awesome. That's interesting.
Little brush stroke there that seemed helpful for me. All right. Thank you.
It's interesting that one of the things that tell us about the sense of smell is that it most rapidly goes right to the primitive brain and can elicit some of the most primitive responses because of where it's connected in. So, as you talk about the eyes and the ears.
right. There would be more a body thing, and also taste, because smell is an extension, from what I had understood, unless new science has shown differently, that smell is an extension of taste. It was how the evolving species was able not only to spit out something that was toxic, but to smell something in the air around about another person or whatever, emanated from another person or thing or place or air. And I think that's fascinating too. That's toxic, yeah. Or pleasurable, for either going towards or away from, a protective. But
Sweet.
just think how sweet exactly that smell is. I mean, dive your nose into a lily or a rose or a plumeria flower, dive it into marjoram. I mean, you can grow marjoram there. Just go get a marjoram plant and just squat down in the grass or lay down in the bed, in the pathway, and smell that marjoram. The first time I ever smelled that smell was in a very costly French. It's beautiful.
Interesting.
So grow marjoram.
Very cool.
All right. Take care. Love you both.
All right. Lots of love and blessings.
I'm expressing my love to you both by actively honoring you with it. There you go.
Received and accepted.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Have a blessed one. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. By the way, I did, as we were talking about the Desiderata poem, I did look on Amazon, and they also have several different copies of it, framed and unframed and such. So there are many places to get a hold of that poster.
I also copied and pasted it into the notes for today.
Thanks, sweetie. You are
now,
so
say
on
again
top of everything.
What was it you said about the smell again?
That smell goes right to the primitive brain. The sense of smell is the most direct access to right back to the reptilian part of the brain.
So what happens when, like I had COVID and it took over a year for me to get my smell back?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, did that give me a year? No, it didn't. I was going to say, did it give me a year's reprieve from the primitive? No, it did not.
Life's still giving you opportunities. Hey, sweetie.
And giving you opportunities, too. You live with me.
There you go. Yes. Opportunities to learn forgiveness. How cool is that?
So we have 7 minutes. We've got plenty of time to cover another topic. Press 1.
Yes.
Any other news on Heartland?
Not at the moment. Haven't heard back from him yet, no. So if you're out there in listener land, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you're listening to the show directly. And then if you ask a question, or pardon me, if you want to ask a question or have a comment, push 1, raise a hand in the control hand in the control panel, and Miss Jeannie will introduce you by area code. We'll have a conversation. So how can we support you? What's on your mind? And if nobody has a thought, complete with my thoughts for today, I'd certainly rather fill the next few minutes with a conversation. But if everybody's complete with that and no one has a question for us, then Miss Jeannie, what do you say we just say thank everybody for joining us and invite everyone to have the best year yet of your eternal life?